I'll never forget the moment my sister, Riley Harper, gave a 48-year-old woman named Susan Caldwell exactly 3 seconds to let go of her car door before threatening to detain her. Riley said it with the kind of calm that could freeze lava, her eyes steady, while Susan screamed in her face and tugged at the handle like she was trying to exorcise a demon from a Dodge Charger. Susan didn't know two things right then. 1. Riley had just returned from a grueling 3-month undercover sting chasing gun runners across state lines. And 2. Behind that cool stare was a storm of federal power ready to break loose. Me? I was across the street, jaw dropped, clutching a grocery bag stuffed with avocados and a frozen pizza, debating whether to whip out my phone or start praying. Let me back up a bit. This all kicked off 2 weeks earlier when Riley moved into my quiet little corner of Willow Creek Estates. I need a breather, she'd said, citing work burnout. Just a couple months, low-key, she added, tossing her duffel bag onto my guest room floor like she hadn't just rolled in from who knows where. I didn't pry. You don't ask questions when your sister owns 2 passports and a stash of burner phones sorted by state. You hand over the Wi-Fi password and hope the neighbors don't notice she scopes every exit before sitting down to dinner. Willow Creek is the kind of suburban bubble where every lawn's manicured, every fence is VYNYL, and the HOA debates mailbox uniformity like it's a UN summit. Enter Susan Caldwell, the self-appointed guardian of this pristine world. She's the type who'd laminate posts from the neighborhood Facebook group and file them in a binderies, a physical binder. I once saw her scold a squirrel for tipping over her Halloween pumpkin. That's her vibe. When she first spotted Riley, something in her snapped. Riley didn't fit Susan's mold of suburban perfection. Tattoos, a blacked-out Charger that growled like a beast, sunglasses after dark, and zero interest in small talk at bake sales. Worst of all, Riley parked on the street technically public curb space, but Susan claimed it as her own. It didn't take long for Susan to escalate. I was folding laundry inside when I heard her unmistakable shriek high-pitched like a boiling kettle, fueled by the rage of a kid denied screen time. I bolted outside just as Susan leaned into Riley's car window, jabbing a finger and ranting about community standards and parking entitlement. Riley sat there, unfazed, sipping iced coffee and scrolling her phone like this was routine, which, honestly, it might have been. Then Susan grabbed the door handle. Riley locked it. Susan yanked harder. I dropped my pizza. Riley looked up and delivered the line that'd soon blow up online. You've got 3 seconds to let go before I detain you. Susan cackled, a full-on condescending laugh, and sneered. Detain me? What are you, some rent-a-cop? Riley stepped out of the car. Now, my sister isn't your typical federal agent stereotypes, 5 feet 6 inches, wiry, with a stillness that feels like the calm before a tornado. She could pass for a yoga teacher, not someone who could neutralize a threat with a pen and a napkin. Susan, smug as ever, kept her hands on the door. Riley pulled a black wallet from her pocket, flipped it open, and revealed a U.S. Marshal's badge. The air chilled 10 degrees. Susan blinked, her brain visibly glitching. This wasn't in her playbook. She released the door like it burned her. You're serious? She sputtered. Riley, deadpan, slid a zip tie from her jacket. Turn around, ma'am. Susan shrieked, turning it into a neighborhood circus. Curtains twitched, a guy across the street faked sorting his trash, and a kid on a scooter just gawked. Susan flailed, yelling about rights, lawsuits, and government conspiracies, but Riley had her zip-tied and plopped on the grass in under 20 seconds like watching someone origami a fitted sheet. Then Riley dropped the Emmy-worthy line. You have the right to remain silent. I suggest you use it. By the time the local cops showed up, Susan was sobbing, mascara streaking, ranting about social media censorship. Riley flashed her badge, gave a concise report, and strolled back inside like she'd just watered the plants. That night, a neighbor's doorbell cam footage hit the internet. It took 4 hours to rack up 1 million views. By morning, Suburban Susan vs. U.S. Marshal was trending worldwide. Remixes popped upon with dubstep, another turning Susan's wails into an opera. Riley? She sipped her coffee, stretched in the backyard, and muttered. She had it coming. But that was just the start. Susan Caldwell didn't do defeat. Normal people might have licked their wounds and baked an apology pie. Not Susan. The humiliation festered. She'd gone viral not for her HOA crusades or her prize-winning porch decor, but for getting zip-tied by someone she'd mocked as a mall cop. The internet roasted her. T-shirts appeared with 3 seconds to let go over a cartoon Susan. A dubstep mix of her screams, federal funk, hit 6 million downloads. She locked her accounts, called the news to set the record straight, then raged when they added laugh tracks. It was war. Susan styled herself as a suburban vigilante, a lone warrior against outsiders and government overreach. To her, Riley wasn't a cop, she was a menace. Susan started documenting Riley's every move. When she left, returned, got a package. She bought military-grade binoculars and perched on her porch with decaf and a notepad, tracking Riley like a discount spy. My favorite was when she tailed Riley in her Subaru, only to get stuck behind a school bus while Riley ditched her at a roundabout. But Susan didn't stop there. She stormed the HOA with a folder of blurry photos and wild claims, parking violations, trash bin infractions, even disruptive YBS. The HOA chair asked her to leave. She called him a federal stooge. Then she went legal, filing a sloppy civil suit against Riley for assault, impersonation, and social humiliation, complete with meme screenshots as Eve Denke. Her lawyer, a vape shop owner, sent Riley a Comic Sans cease and desist. Riley laughed, scanned it, and used it as a coaster. What Susan didn't realize was she'd poked a bear. In her vendetta, she hired Lenny Russo, a PI with a 2.3-star Yelp rating and a mustache that looked like a bad craft project. Lenny was cheap and shady, perfect for Susan, terrible for her plans. He started tailing Riley, who spotted his beat-up Corolla on day 2. She waved at him every time she passed, driving him nuts. But Lenny stumbled onto something big. Digging into Riley's past, he hit dead ends. Her file was classified but caught a whisper: Riley was on leave. Susan spun that into a conspiracy, claiming Riley was a rogue agent, a deep state fraud. Truth was, Riley's leave wasn't what Susan thought. She wasn't in trouble. She was recovering from a botched op. Her informant, Carlos Rivera, had vanished mid-mission, embedded in a gun-running network. Right before Riley could pull him out, he went dark. Now, in Willow Creek, Carlos's trail reappeared. Riley spotted a car, same model, same scratch, different plates. Her gut screamed. A call to the bureau confirmed it tied to a fake address Carlos used. Her bosses gave her the green light to poke around quietly. She didn't tell me much, just went sharp-eyed and started double-checking her car. Meanwhile, Susan thought she was winning, bragging that her harassment had broken Riley. She held a clubhouse meeting with a PowerPoint on federal overreach, 2 attendees, 1 lost. But Lenny's bumbling snapped a photo of a landscaping truck unloading gear. Riley recognized a face. Miguel Torres, ex-mercenary with a scar over his eyebrow, linked to Carlos. The crew, Evergreen Solutions, wasn't just planting shrubs, they were moving drugs and cash, using yards as drop points. Susan had unwittingly tripped over a real crime ring. At 3:42 a.m., Riley stood in our kitchen, barefoot, staring at a corkboard of maps and notes, a spoonful of peanut butter forgotten. She circled Miguel's face, muttering. Susan's HOA tantrum just blew this wide open. By morning, she was back in action gear packed, Charger roaring off. She left me one rule: text her if I saw that truck. I did, days later, snapping a pic of Miguel unloading mulch. Riley replied, "Stay back. Eyes only." That night, she confirmed it drugs packed in foam-lined bags, a front for local and interstate runs. Carlos hadn't ghosted. He'd flipped. Riley ran a shadow op with a small team. Unmarked vans rolled in. Her partner posed as a pest control guy. Susan, clueless, amped up her antics, motion sensors blaring the national anthem, neighborhood under siege signs. Then a delivery mix-up dropped 3 plastic garden frogs at her door. Riley knew them, coded drop markers. Susan, thinking they were spy tech, stormed the cruise yard with a rake, screaming about infiltration. That's when it blew up. Riley's team swarmed in 90 seconds, 5 arrests, cash, and phones dug up. Susan, mid-rant, got zip-tied again. Miguel went quietly, smirking. In court, Susan represented herself, armed with TikTok conspiracies and a USB of Riley mowing the lawn. She ranted about deep state plots. Riley stated facts, badge number, mission details, EVY Denke of Susan's obstruction. The jury took minutes, guilty on multiple counts. Probation, community service, therapy, and an HOA ban. Susan moved out soon after, silently. Riley stayed, watchful. The new neighbors Aravade a couple, friendly, but their car's plate read, Fed for life. Riley smiled, not warmly. Friend or foe, she said. Calm returned, but safety didn't. Carlos was still out there, waiting.